It's WrestleMania Blow-Off right here on channelattitude.com, brought to you by Hamin Media Group.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hour where there's nothing left to prove. Experimental lack of concern. It's a perfect world being burned. This is the maniacal hour. Pure 100% underground. Powered by the emotion of self-passion. This is how we get down. Extra read all about it. Evidence coming to take control. Extra read all about it. Evidence coming to take control. Lock and load, steal souls and watch it explode. Dispatch the death squad and watch it go. Serial killers, cadavers, murderous psychos. As the hour goes, it takes the time. Expires as we live dead, revitalized. Surprised by the high with red still in our eyes. The pleasure is all ours to give you the power. This is the maniacal hour.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the blow-off, or shall I say the WrestleMania blow-off. I'm your host, Jimmy T. And my co-host, as you could hear in the background, him blowing, because it's called the blow-off, obviously, is Evil Dose himself, Jeff Lippman. Welcome to the blow-off once again. How are you, my friend? And how evil are you feeling?
You know what? I'm not feeling so evil. I'm feeling great. This has been an exciting night of wrestling already at the WrestleMania weekend. I don't care who you are. If you're a wrestling fan, this is what you look forward to all year long. So, yeah, I know WrestleMania isn't the greatest WrestleMania card of all time, but I'm still excited. I'm excited for the week. I'm strangely optimistic.
Absolutely, man. And you can also check us out, by the way, at theblowoff.com, just quietly. Yeah, I'm excited, Jeff. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we were just recording the Uncaged just before, and our co-host Chris, Mr. AMBS himself, doesn't seem to be too excited about WrestleMania weekend. But you know what, man? I am. I'm looking forward to WrestleMania, nevertheless. And man, already this weekend has been pretty exciting for professional wrestling fans. Am I wrong in saying that, Jeff?
No, I think you're right. I mean, we had a WrestleMania kickoff with SmackDown, which had some WrestleMania type matches on it. There was the Hall of Fame. We had the Super Card of Honor, which I think everybody who saw it was pleasantly surprised or enjoyed it if they weren't surprised. I've heard good things about the Impact's multiverse with NWA and whoever else was part of it. I didn't see it. I've heard nothing about GCW or Control Your Narrative. Two things I'm surprised about, other than that the Briscoes won the GCW tag team titles. But anyone has information on those things, you can tweet me at IcarusFellMD, because I'd like to know what happened in those shows and why it's so quiet. But maybe RIP GCW as being the number 3 promotion.
Oh, I don't know about that, Jeff. That's going a little too far. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I'm glad to report that I did receive a lot of GCW. Yeah, I did. I just noticed you're wearing a Jeff shirt. I like it.
Well, everybody says that we look alike, so this way they can tell us apart, even though the wrong Twitter address is there.
Well, you're wearing yeah, that's true. He is not DJ Mass Effects. That's me, and I'm not Jargo, clearly. But I will say,
I'm also not Jargo, but you don't know I'm not DJ Mass Effects, people. I could be.
That's true. That's true.
He could have been lying to you all this time.
Well, it's a mystery. But if anyone knows how to switch sides when it comes to StreamYard, please let us know in the comments or email me something.
Or if you know how to play piano, you can call Jimmy, because the piano is just collecting dust back there.
Dude, that's my house. That's my piano, dude. It's a grand piano, no less.
Beautiful.
And if anyone needs piano lessons, you can hit me up at DJ Mass Effects. But
modern contemporary.
Absolutely. But in saying that, with GCW, that came up on my news feed. I'm not going to lie. So it was Bloodsport, I believe that was the event they were doing. I saw bits and pieces. I have watched the first few Bloodsports, and it's a cool concept. But the problem is, when you can see that shit is not like a shoot, kind of defeats the purpose of calling it Bloodsport. It is what it is. That's GCW for you. I'm still not sure if GCW.
They had For the Culture Collective today, and I'm not hearing anything about anything. And by the way, I follow like all of Shane Taylor promotions. I follow Mysterious Q. Sometimes he's Majin Q. I mean, it's not like I don't follow these folks on Twitter. I mean, I should see these things just by accident without looking for them.
That's true. I mean, you do have a point. But what I didn't see though, Jeff, and I didn't even realize there was even an event going on, is control your narrative. I mean, I don't want to laugh because, like I said, our boy Blake Troop, he's part of Control Your Narrative, and that's awesome. I'm happy for him. And you know what? They've got a decent kind of roster, right? But I
There are
mean,
names on there that everybody knows. If you are a wrestling fan, you know who a lot of these folks are. Probably the only one you don't know is who you just said, Blake Troop. But I mean,
you'd be surprised, Jeff. I
yeah,
mean, he was an MMA guy before that too. I mean,
good
he's got a
point.
name out there. Believe me, he's friends with a
Well,
lot of big professional
I said a
wrestling names out
wrestling
there.
fan. I didn't say a sports fan. I distinguished the
Right.
two. But yeah, you got EC3. You have Braun Strowman, Adam Scherr. You have Killer Cross, Austin Aries, Vincent, the Horror King, my good friend, Flip Gordon, the former Killian Dane, whatever he's going by now, Eric Redbeer, who is Eric Rowan. I mean, I'm not saying the card was great. I'm not saying the show was intriguing or anything like that, but there's names on it. I mean, big names, people who were. Braun Strowman was a world champion, what, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, he was. Well, even less, I think, Jeff. So
Could be. Time moves differently during COVID. I mean, Cross was your 2-time NXT champion, within the last 12 months. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people on there, but not a lot of talk. Even results. Again, it's not like I missed any of their promotional videos. They all found their way to my feed, but results, nothing.
yeah, I mean, that's true. As far as Control Your Narrative goes, I got no results either. Like I said, I didn't even know they were even doing a show. So, I mean, it is what it is. Good luck to them. Hopefully they get themselves out there a little bit more, but it's going to be hard now that Ring of Honor is back as well under Tony Khan. So it is what it is. But you know what, Jeff? Let's start with some WWE. Did you watch SmackDown by any chance?
I did, yeah.
What happened on the show? What do you think? I mean, was it a decent go home show for WrestleMania?
It was decent. I mean, it was, they put on the Andre Battle Royal. A little bit underwhelming. No surprises in there. The surprise was the ending. I mean, I figured with Finn Balor as the U.S. champion and Damian Priest in there as being the two biggest names in the match, that's who it was going to come down to, and Damian Priest would turn full heel and do something dastardly to Finn to set up a match or a three-way. But no, that's not what happened. Damian Priest lost earlier. Finn Balor was one of the final two. Madcap Moss eliminated both of the Dirty Dogs. Ciampa, by the way, was the only guy from NXT in the match. I guess furthering the thought that he's going to be on the main roster, but also sort of furthering his feud with the Dirty Dogs. But anyway, so Madcap Moss eliminated the Dirty Dogs, thought he eliminated Finn, didn't successfully eliminate Finn. Finn came in to beat him. So you figure, okay, this is where Finn wins the Andre Battle Royal. Great, terrific. No, Madcap Moss won the Andre Battle Royal. So, which was a little weird, especially during it. There was a little bit of Baron Corbin wasn't in the Battle Royal, but he came out to help Madcap Moss, but he really didn't help him much. Well, he did a little, but it didn't all go right, and they seemed to be bickering. And I guess Corbin was saying, win, do this, or get rid of him. And Moss is, instead of fighting, he's looking at Corbin going, I'm trying. But anyway, Madcap Moss won. They then had the Los Lotharios against Ricochet in a 2-on-1. Little subtext here was that, the Lotharios weren't exactly getting along the whole time because they were trying to pin each other, of course, to win the title. And, I mean, this is one of the stupidest tropes that's repeated in wrestling. When you have a tag team in there and every man for themselves, the winner gets a title, and apparently they have a plan to work together. I mean, what's the difference whether they face each other when the third guy is in there or just when it's the two of them? At some point, one of them has to beat the other. So anyway, Ricochet won. Spoiler, still your champion. We had Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs against the Usos. I think it was one Uso against one of them, but the reason I don't really know is because it didn't matter, because Austin Theory came down and threw ice on Pat McAfee. It's the second time Austin Theory attacked Pat McAfee, and the first time Pat McAfee chased him back and kicked open Mr. McMahon's door, and Mr. McMahon said, "Are you crazy? Do you want me to fire you? Do you want me to cancel your WrestleMania match?" So in that order, the canceling the WrestleMania match was the big threat. So Michael Cole was restraining Pat McAfee the second time. So as Austin Theory is backing up, Finn Balor came down and started beating up Austin Theory from behind. So it became a 6-man match, of course, which is WWE, the rule. Anyway, the heels won. Austin Theory pinned Finn Balor, so there was no consequence to anyone in the SmackDown Tag Team title match. We had the women's match. Naomi and Sasha defeated, pinned Queen Zelina. The other 2 tag teams were outside watching. That was basically SmackDown. There were a few commercials. I mean, they obviously did a little package on Ronda, who was sparring with Shayna Baszler. They did, a Charlotte promo. They did a recap of some of the stuff, as you would expect before WrestleMania. But I mean, did you miss anything by missing it? No. But were there things on it to, make it interesting enough for Friday night before WrestleMania? Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't like, whoa, that's the go home show. I got to get WrestleMania now. But it was fine, and then it led straight into the Hall of Fame. But I didn't watch that because I had duties, which included watching Rampage.
Right, absolutely. And I've been wanting to catch the Hall of Fame myself as well, because apparently Undertaker's speech was apparently, going by the IWC, is the best Hall of Fame speech in the history of the Hall of Fame. I mean, did you catch anything with Undertaker, or?
No, just the same things you saw. I mean, obviously not, because I was watching SmackDown, then Rampage, and then
Right.
I also watched the Ring of Honor show and keeping up with stuff there. And we did Uncaged before this, and when we're in the wee hours, so something had to give. I'm not really big into watching Hall of Fames, period. I don't watch the Oscars. I'm not really that interested in award shows, but I'll I'm sure they will replay his speech in its entirety 17 more times on Peacock during the course of this weekend. I'm really not worried about missing it. I'll see it.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, some Hall of Fame speeches have been great, but yeah, I agree, man. I mean, it's hard enough just catching up with all the professional wrestling over WrestleMania weekend as it is. And and believe me, I want to watch everything, but I just can't do it. You know what I mean?
No,
So
no one
hopefully,
can.
after we do the blow off, I'll catch up with some things right before WrestleMania. But speaking of WrestleMania, Jeff, and before we do move on to WrestleMania predictions, I just want to ask: was there anything with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar on SmackDown at the very least?
No, just recap stuff.
Really? So they weren't on the show at all?
I didn't see them.
Oh, that's strange. Oh, anyway, well, let's move on to WrestleMania predictions, and we'll obviously start with day one for
I
WrestleMania
assumed that they
38.
were both at the Hall of Fame ceremony itself.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, were they running at the same time?
I think so. The Hall of Fame was live, right? I mean, you have to get there. You get your seat. You go through security. I mean, I'm sure they could have really, they could have done it logistically if they wanted to put them on at the beginning, but they'd be in their trunks. They got changed into tuxedos or whatever. I just think that there's probably a cocktail hour and there's probably photo shoots, and they were probably doing press and things.
Interesting. Well, let's get into predictions, Jeff, because we do have 2 nights to cover. So let's start with day one.
Stand and deliver.
Yes, stand and deliver.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do stand and deliver predictions first?
You're the boss, man.
Let's go with WrestleMania, and we'll work our way down all the way to Supercard of Honor, when we'll start talking about that. So let's start with WrestleMania day one. I'll go from the top. We'll go from main event to the bottom. I'm assuming is the main event, which is Raw Women's Championship between Becky Lynch, who's your champion, versus Bianca Belair. Obviously, this one's pretty obvious. I think we're going to go with Bianca Belair, or do we go with Becky Lynch? Actually, Jeff, I mean,
it's not going to be the main event. The Stone Cold Kevin Owens show is going to be the main event, and Ronda Charlotte's probably going to be the penultimate match. But no, Bianca has to win this. This has to be the culmination of her hero's journey from being screwed at SummerSlam to now.
Yeah, I agree, man. So we both go with the Bianca Belair, and keep
I
in mind
wouldn't
this
be
is night one.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they try a double turn though, or something with her hair. Like I think
Neither
it's
would
time for
I.
that braid to go.
And I'll tell you why I sort of get a feeling of that as well. Because first of all, she already got a WrestleMania moment last year, did she not?
Yeah, she did. Mhm.
So why do we need to see her get her WrestleMania moment twice, 2 years in a row?
Well, I mean, it's just the story, but I mean, no one's really buying Becky as a heel. It's not really working. Bianca as sort of the happy baby face doesn't work. She could do the jock baby face, but she's not.
Right.
And her whole gimmick is "I'm the best," which is sort of a heel thing. I don't know, and the hair just gets in the way. I mean, more people use it against her than she uses offensively, but no, Bianca has to win, and I don't think there'll actually be a double turn because I think this year's WrestleMania is all about making the crowd feel happy and cheer and having families watch, on Peacock, and getting 4 or 5 million people to watch instead of the usual, 2 or 3 million or whatever they normally get for WrestleMania to get like 30% more because that's going to be your family night in instead of your night out.
I agree. No doubt about it. Well, then we move on to the Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios in Rey Mysterio and Dominique. Uh I guess the Mysterios.
Yeah, I can't tell you how little I care about any of this. I don't like anyone in this match whatsoever. What, Jeff? You don't like Rey Mysterio? Never did. Yeah, I think the Mysterios are going to win. It's because Logan Paul turns on the Miz. He'll knock him out with a punch, leave him there. Going back to the Cleveland thing. And maybe he'll even give Rey Mysterio, back a mask or something out of respect. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Mysterios win, and then the Miz is the butt of the joke again.
Yeah, I agree again, once again. And I don't even know. This match has been a shit build, in my opinion. But anyway, it is what it is. But let's move on to Seth Rollins versus to be announced. Um, I guess TBA can be CODY.
It can be, but you know what? If it's Pharaoh, if it's Brandy, whoever to be announced is winning. I don't care who it is. Whoever it is winning. Yes, I think it's Cody as well. I've been saying it's Cody for weeks. It's probably going past a month now. The time moves differently, but yeah, Cody's winning. Despite what my other tag team partner, Big Daddy Cool, thinks that Seth is the star and Vince likes to make people do their penance. No, he's living in the past. He's living in a different war. This is an entirely different war. When you pluck the competition's biggest star, you got to make them look like a bigger star. And WCW was already out of business in bankruptcy court when Vince got WCW. AEW was very much an ongoing concern, which may have which for all intents and purposes has picked up another promotion.
I agree. Well said, actually, Jeff. And I think I'm going to go with TBA as well. Whether it's Cody, whether they swerve us, I do think they might swerve us, though, Jeff. I think
Well,
they'll throw in.
who are your
No.
swerves? Do you want to pick? Do you want us to
Wait.
both give like our top 3 swerve possibilities?
No. Well, no, not exactly. I do think, though, it will be Cody. No doubt, right?
All right.
But I also do think they will introduce maybe someone else first. Just to, yeah, it could be Jeff. But really? All right. Well, go ahead and do that if you have to.
I can't work the camera. I can't figure how backwards works. I can't figure out reverse images. I'm not smart enough for that.
Well, guess what? I can't even figure out pause during the show. Can you believe that? But if
I
you
thought
do
you were
need
going to
to
say you
go,
can't figure out porn. So
well, there's that too. But if you do need to go, Jeff, I can put on a little break if you like.
no, that wasn't a signal that I need to take a number 1. I was just saying that
Okay.
Jeff's
All right,
number
all
1.
right.
Maybe I'm the swerve. Maybe I'm the to be announced.
Well, honestly, maybe it is you, but I do think it could be they could bring someone like a Gilbert just for a shit stir, which would be funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's Gilbert, but just someone other than Cody, and then you hear the Kingdom song hit.
Or
There's
could be
only one
Goldberg.
family.
That could be a swerve. I'm hearing Bray. I'm hearing all sorts of things, but it's Cody.
If it's Goldberg, it will be a shitstorm.
That would
Oh
be a
my
shit.
god! If it's Bray, I think the fans would be actually quite happy and excited. I
I
won't
would
complain.
much rather be Bray than Cody.
But if it's not Cody, though, Jeff, I mean, the fans have been chanting on Raw
No.
and SmackDown for Cody. Everyone's expecting Cody.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not Cody, they have totally shot themselves in the foot. Although I could see Vince laughing and laughing hysterically, like, and I
Yeah.
thought it was Cody.
But he might actually die. He'd laugh so hard. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yeah, it needs to be Cody. It should be Cody. I would rather it be the Fiend, but I don't think that most people would feel the same way.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is the Fiend. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Either way, it could either be the worst kept secret in the history of professional wrestling or the biggest disappointment. We'll wait and see. So this is
That's our
definitely
drama.
happening night one.
You're
Right.
selling the
Absolutely.
drama. You're
I'm
selling the
selling the
drama.
drama. Hey, they sold me the drama too. I'm curious. I want to know.
No,
But
you're
going
doing.
from a mysterious matchup to I guess a happy matchup between Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin. Surely Drew wins this match.
Drew wins this match. The only question is whether or not Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss split up at this match. I don't think it happens at this match. I think it happens at the SmackDown following, but nobody cares about any of this.
Jimmy crack corn, and I don't care. So yeah, you're right. It will be definitely Drew McIntyre that gets a win. Whether there's a split, we'll see. We move on to the SmackDown Tag Team Championship between the Usos, Jay and Jimmy Uso, that is, who are the champs, versus Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura. However, Boogs does it. I can't do it. I think we crown new champions.
Yeah. So I do too. I mean, I've been calling for this, that they were going to be a tag team act before Nakamura lost the Intercontinental belt, which is why I was so sure he was going to lose the Intercontinental belt when he could get healthy, because they've been dying to make them a tag team act. And yeah, I think that the Roman Empire falls tonight, if not in full, at least in part. And yeah, so since I've been calling for this for weeks before they were even a tag team, I'm gonna stick with it and say that I'm prescient. But I've heard a lot of people thinking the Usos are going to retain. I guess you can't really bet against them, but that's just not the way I see this going. I think this is about the happy cheer cheer.
I agree 100%. Which is funny, Jeff. We haven't gone. We've actually picked the same things so far. So let's and I guess the next match is also pretty predictable. And it's for the SmackDown Women's Championship between Charlotte Flair, who's your champion, versus Ronda Rousey. Surely Rousey gets the win here.
I agree, but stop calling me Shirley.
Well, so we just move on to the main event, apparently, of all WrestleMania, supposedly, between Stone Cold Steve Austin, who appears on the KO show hosted by Kevin Owens. What happens here, Jeff? Do we get a little matchup like we did with The Rock and Redbeard, I think it was, a few years back at WrestleMania, which was, I believe, also in Dallas when that match happened? Or do we get, Stone Cold on the KO show, which leads to a whole bunch of stunners and everybody leaves happy while he's drinking beers?
I don't
Steve
think
Weiser's.
I don't think it's really going to be either of those things. I mean, there's definitely be his new lager is going to be prominently displayed. I mean, I think it's going to start as the KO show, but there's never going to be a show. Kevin Owens may start talking, but I think Stone Cold will cup him, on both the ears with foamy beers, start kicking him, and it'll be like a street fight, and it'll go all over the place. There'll be a lot of kick, stomps. Kevin Owens will get very little offense in. He'll take some crazy dives. At some point, he'll walk into the clothesline from hell. At another point, he'll get the spin-a-rooney. He'll walk right into the sweet chin music. Another stunner. He will get pinned somewhere. It doesn't matter. Maybe they'll sanction it. Maybe they won't. It doesn't matter. The only question I have is whether or not, when he thinks he's finally safe and sound, if he bumps right into the Undertaker and takes a tombstone also. That's the only question in my mind.
Interesting. I do think we'll get an Undertaker appearance, definitely. At this
point,
could have been. Well, there's also talk that it possibly could be Undertaker being the opponent for Seth Rollins. Even say,
no, I mean,
that would be a big disappointment.
I just no, I don't think so.
Let's hope not, because that's bad business for not just Taker but also WWE. So let's move on to night 2, and we start with the title versus title unification match, which is Roman Reigns, your Universal Champion, versus Brock Lesnar, the WWE champion. This one's hard, man. This one's tough because you can go either way. Do we go with Brock or do we go with Roman? I'm not
Well,
sure, but I'm leaning towards Roman here.
I think most people are leaning towards Roman. I'd say that either way, I think it's great. But I think that Roman needs a rest. I do think that the Roman Empire is
That's right.
going
That's what
to
stops
fall
me.
and regroup. I think that they want to end WrestleMania on the feel good moment. Again, the cheer, cheer. I think not only is Brock going to win, but the Usos are going to try to come out and interfere. And you know who's going to interfere and stop them or save him?
Don't say
Gable
The Rock.
Stevenson.
Oh, God,
I
no.
know everyone thinks The Rock is going to be there. Maybe. I mean, I know that everyone because they think it's set in stone for next year. I'm not so sure. I think The Rock has a lot of things going on. Like The Rock maybe would, but I think that the Usos come in and Gable Stevenson, whether it's with Kurt Angle or with his brother or whatever, that they
Please.
stop the Usos and and Brock, shows respect to Gable Stevenson. But I think you're going to see Brock standing tall, and there's going to be at least one Olympic gold medalist there.
That was a big possibility, although that takes away some heat from Brock Lesnar, in my opinion, and I don't think he'll be happy with that personally. But
I don't think he cares. I think he at this point he knows whatever he does, people love it.
well, one thing's for sure. I think you're right about Roman Reigns. I've heard rumors for quite a while now that he does want to take a break. So in saying that, I think I will go with Brock. Brock to win both championships. Does that mean we get him now on Raw and SmackDown if he does win?
For a very little bit. This is not going to last very long. I mean, whatever this unification is, there's two networks that both pay over $200 million for these shows per year. They're not going to accept one title, especially from Brock, who's part-time, or Roman, who's probably going to scale back some. And really, let's face it, all of the top tier stars right now are in their mid 40s or older. You've got your Edges, your AJ Styles, who else? I mean, I guess Cody or Seth might win Money in the Bank, and they're younger, but I don't know. No, whatever this is, yeah, I think you'll have Brock appear, but not perform on both, not wrestle on both shows. But whatever this unification is, it will be less than half a year.
Well, speaking of mid 40s, guys, our next match is Edge versus AJ Styles. I think I'm going to go with AJ on this one, dude.
All of the prevailing wisdom should say that Edge is the part-timer. He's got limited matches per year. AJ is the younger of the two, although he's not young. AJ is the full-timer. AJ, while he's actually picked up more wins, he's had prominent losses, but they have a new character for Edge. He's got the new music. He's got the new look. He's got the scales of justice. They just filed a trademark for something called Grand Jury, which at first I thought it was going to be the tag team that attacked the Creed brothers. But then when I saw him with the scales of justice, and I heard Grand Jury was trademark, that's a little bit of a coincidence, a little bit on the head. Maybe they want to get, their own version of maybe a more adult version of the Dark Order. Damian Priest seems like someone they're trying to turn into a heel, and he could benefit by being with Edge. This is a very long way of saying, even though everything tells me it should be AJ, I still think it's going to be Edge. He's the bigger star, and AJ can come back from anything, and I don't know. They're doing something with Edge, and I'm not really sure what they're doing with AJ other than making him be the guy that makes people look good.
Yeah, and that's the problem because I feel that AJ needs to get a big win, and I think this is his time to get that big win because it's been a while, Jeff. So for once, I think we're both going to cross over here.
It's okay.
Jeff is going with Edge. I'm going with AJ, and we'll just see what happens. So then we move on to the women's tag team championship between
If it
Queen
was Edge
Zelina.
Styles, that could be like a place where you got your hair cut at Edge Styles.
Edge Styles, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good name for a barber or hairdresser's shop,
Right.
whatever you want to call it.
Trademark pending, bitches.
Trademark pending. Oh, absolutely. So, like I was saying, we've got a women's tag team championship match between Queen Zelina and Carmella, who are your champions, versus Naomi and Sasha Banks, versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. I'm going to go with Rhea Ripley and what's her name, Liv Morgan. I think this is where they're going to get their little shine. and we're going to have new women's tag team champions.
Disagree. This is all for Sasha and Naomi. Naomi for the struggle she's been going through, being on the sidelines for so long, and then this whole Sonya thing. Sonya's not been around, and it's to put a belt on Sasha to keep her away from the world title picture for the next 6 to 9 months at least, because they've got all these women floating around up there. Rhea cannot possibly be the tag team champion again with Liv Morgan. I mean, she already had a bad experience with an undersized underachiever. So I actually think that Liv Morgan might go batshit, or one of them is going to turn on the other one. Shayna and Natty are just there to make sure that the match doesn't go completely haywire and make sure it stays in the ropes when they're supposed to. But yeah, I'm going to go with Sasha and Naomi to win the belts.
I'll stick with Ripley and Morgan. So yeah, another one where we disagree. Well, then we move on to Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. Pat McAfee for me, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much really to say about this match other than that. So then we move on to Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. Jesus, there's a lot of crap on day 2. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of bullshit on this card.
A lot of sports entertainment.
This is your sports entertainment night, definitely. I'm going to go with Johnny fucking Knoxville.
Yeah. It's a anything goes match. It's not a question of who, it's a question of how, and how crazy the Rube Goldberg machine is, whether or not Sami Zayn falls into a giant birthday cake, which cuts open a cord, which releases balloons, which when they pop, freeze a bunch of birds, and then an anvil falls on his head, or a bowling ball. It's gonna be like that scene in The Naked Gun where O.J. Simpson, they all shoot him, and like his hand goes on wet paint, the windowsill falls on his fingers, he steps in a bear trap, he burns his arm on a hot kettle of tea.
God damn it, Jeff.
This will be like where they use those CGI graphics for Riddle's birds that come out of his feet, and Sammy will have like band-aids and a plus sign. They'll have no sale signs in his eyes, stars floating around his head. So yes, Johnny Knoxville.
I can't believe what you just said, but it is what it is. Oh God. Anyway, it is what it is. We move on to the Raw Tag Team Championship matchup between RK Bro, who are your champions, versus the Street Profits versus Shush Alpha Academy. This one's tricky. I would say RK Bro, but I think maybe the Street Profits will get their comeuppance over here. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, the Street Profits are turning heel, so they're not going to get their comeuppance. And I know that everybody thinks that the RK Bros are going to break up, and they will one day, but it's not going to be Sunday. I think that they're going to keep it. They're working too well together. That's why they're turning the Street Profits heel. So there's something else going on there. And the Alpha Academy is over as they are. They're still a B team. So yeah, I think the RK Bros keep it, and they stay with their feel good thing. They can break them up at any time.
Yeah, okay. I think you've convinced me. All right, well, let's go with RK Bro. I think you're right. Next, we move on to Bobby Lashley versus Omos, and let me just say, no one's really been talking about this online, and I've said this from when this happened back at Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to say it again. I think Bobby Lashley's injury was all a work, dude. He was never injured. I think this is all a cover-up just because he lost the WWE Championship as quick as he did once again to Brock Lesnar, because Bobby Lashley said it himself. He said if he doesn't agree with shit, he won't do it. He won't do it. It has to make sense. It's hard for me to believe that he would have agreed to drop the belt once again to Brock Lesnar. And I'm going to stick to it. I actually think it was a work. But in saying that, Omos gets the win, I think.
I don't think it was a work. I think he came back. He's putting off surgery. I think he's going to get surgery. This is supported by when I saw him Monday night. The left side of his body, his left arm was smaller than his right arm. He's never been anything other than perfectly symmetrical before, like perfectly symmetrical. Like Rusev isn't, and then how Orndorff used to have one arm a lot smaller than that from atrophy. Anyway, I think they've been trying to turn Bobby Lashley face they've been toying with it for 6 months now. I don't know why he's been so great as a heel. He was so great with the Hurt Business. He's so great with MVP. But I think the injury is real, and I think he's going to do some crazy feat of strength where he's going to pick up almost, try and get him in one of those vertical suplexes, hold him there for a while, and his old friend MVP is going to screw him, hit him with his walking stick, his cane, right there in that shoulder. He's going to fall flat down. Almost is going to fall on him, get the win. MVP reforms the Hurt Business with Almost, maybe with Cedric and Shelton. I don't know. Probably doesn't matter. What I would love is if Bobby Lashley and Almost went to a time limit draw, if it was a 20-minute time limit, but the matches are an hour, so we know that's not going to happen. If they could somehow do a mutual respect kind of thing where they became the new Hurt Business, but I can't have nice things. I can't have things that nice. So Almost could use a spokesperson. They can always turn Lashley heel again, which they should, but I don't know. They're trying to do what they're trying to do, and anyway, so I'm going to go with Almost, but because Lashley gets screwed, that's how he's protected. He really gets the surgery and goes away for 3 months.
Well, that's wishful thinking, Jeff, and that sounds better too. I would love that, but they won't do that. They just won't. And you're right. I think MVP will turn on Lashley, and we do get, I don't know if it's a new Hurt Business or what's going on there, but obviously Omos needs a mouthpiece, and I think MVP would be that perfect mouthpiece. But I
did
still
you see
think
he
there's
rapped?
something
He did Jay's. He rapped Jay-Z.
oh, sorry, but I'm just saying. Still, we'll see what happens. But that pretty much covers WrestleMania, and I think we need to move on to Ring of Honor now. Sorry, let's go NXT. Stand and Deliver, right?
Yep.
So let me just get the card up, just so I see what's going on. Stand and Deliver, and where is it? God damn it!
It's also in Dallas.
Well, obviously it would be. Where else would it be?
Stand and deliver, la diddly wop wop, la diddly wop wop.
I mean, I'm hearing Triple H was also back, actually in the back, Jeff. Did you hear anything about that?
No, but I would fully expect he was there. I know that he had a meeting with the talent and Nick Khan where they said you guys can start doing certain third-party pays again. You can do cameos and Twitch and stuff like that again. So, releasing some of the shackles, one of the big criticisms and probably one of the bigger mistakes that they've made in a lot of ways, and if nothing else, in making themselves more vulnerable to we're not independent contractors, type of claims.
I'm surprised they've backtracked on that, to be honest with you. Especially, I can't imagine that they would be cool with an OnlyFans account, though, depending on what their talent actually do.
OnlyFans, I think that, I mean, they have like a list, and I'm sure like OnlyFans probably isn't one of them, or it's got to be PG. I mean, there's going to be parameters to it, but it's still, I mean, listen, everyone likes to think that they ignore all the noise they hear about all the wrestlers wanting to leave. 2 wrestlers basically walked out on their contracts. Everyone's saying it was a prison and whatever. And you can ignore that noise for as long as you want. But when nobody seems to be happy, that's a problem. And wrestling is their core business. They make their money through everything else. But at some point, the wrestling product has to be good. And, there was some poet who wrote, when the center cannot hold, things fall apart. And they have to build their center.
No, I agree 100%, man. Well, let's move on to Stand and Deliver 22, and that's NXT Stand and Deliver. And let's go with match number 1. I'm assuming it's match number 1. But for your tag team or your women's NXT Tag Team Championships, whose Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, who are your champions, versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. I'm going to go with Dakota and Raquel, I think, in this matchup. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, it's Raquel, but yes, I agree.
Raquel, whatever.
The faces. Okay, Jimmy.
Yeah, all right, Jeff, you got me.
Okay, gimme.
Gimme. Anyway, so let's move on to match number 2, which is a fatal 5-way ladder match for your NXT North American Championship between Kamala Hayes, your champion with Trick Williams, versus Santos Escobar, versus Solo Sikoa, versus Grayson Waller, versus Cameron Grimes. I'm going to stick with Kamala Hayes, actually, Jeff.
I am too. I think Cameron Grimes is going to come so close, and Trick Williams is going to screw him and break his heart and his dead father's heart, which is going to be the
Oh
next
god.
feud that nobody's going to care about. But yeah, Carmelo Hayes keeps this title. There's no reason to take it off that guy. Despite being of diminutive stature, he's a star.
Absolutely, I agree, man. I'm a big fan of his too. We move on to just a normal plain Jane singles match between Tommaso Ciampa versus Tony D'Angelo. It's a battle of the Italians. I guess Tommaso Ciampa goes over in this match, surely.
I'm saying Tony D's going over. Ciampa's going to do the honors. Either he's moving up to the main roster. I'm not sure if he is or if he isn't, but either way, Tony D'Angelo can't lose 2 feuds back to back with NXT 1.0 people. If they're going to build anything around him, he's got to beat someone. He lost to Pete Dunne, Butch. He's got to beat Ciampa. Ciampa can take losses. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to stick with Ciampa because D'Angelo is nothing more than your Brooklyn Brawler 2.0. I said it.
But they don't think that. At least not yet.
Do they? I don't know.
I don't think anything about Wheeler Yuta, but we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. Well, we get a fatal 4-way match for your NXT Women's Championship up next between Mandy Rose, your champion, versus Cora Jade versus Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray. I'm going to go with Io Shirai once again to become your new NXT Women's Champion.
I'm sticking with Mandy Rose retaining, and I'm going to go one further. I think Cora Jade is not working out as a face. She turns heel and joins Toxic Attraction as sort of as the mean young girl.
Interesting. We'll wait and see what happens there. Well, we move on to a triple threat tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships between Imperium, Fabian Aichner, and Marcel Barthel, who are your champs, versus the Creed brothers, Brutus Creed and Julius Creed, with Malcolm Bivens versus MSK, Nash Carter, and Wesley. This one's a lot harder to actually pick for me, man. But I'm going to go with MSK.
I am too. And I agree it's hard, but the fact that the Creed brothers are being stalked by someone will play into it. Whether it's one of these teams or another, somebody's going to interfere, distract them, cost the match. Maybe it's a stab in the back by Roderick Strong and someone else, or Malcolm Bivens. Doesn't even matter who it is, to be frank. Could be the Dirty Dogs for all I care. But that'll cost them. Imperium, I feel like maybe it's time for them to move to the main roster. They're not special, but they're a very workman-like team. They can be like the new FTR there. You can give them titles. Absolutely. You don't have to.
Even better, Jeff.
Possibly. I mean, they're certainly more dynamic.
I agree.
And I think ultimately Gunther, if he's still Gunther, will join them up there. I think it'll be a little bit yet for him. But yeah, I'm going to go with you. I think MSK as well. They finally got them cheered again.
For sure, definitely. And it was hard. But they've managed to get there. But speaking of Gunther, we move on to match number 6 in just a normal singles match between LA Knight versus Gunther. This is an easy one. Obviously, Gunther.
Yeah, Gunther's going to win, but LA Knight is this is going to be like a 49-51. He's going to have plenty of offense. He's going to look good in it, and he'll be on Raw Monday night or SmackDown Friday night. Him and NXT needs to be done. It's time to pull the trigger on the guy. He's 38, 39 years old. Yeah. Looks like $1 million, can talk. Yeah, everyone says he sounds like the Rock, has facial expressions like Ric Flair, and has the intonation of Stone Cold. So that's a pretty good combination.
That is a very good combination, except is he really that good? I don't know, but he's good.
No,
I've been a fan of his for a long time.
For 2022, he's good enough.
Oh, I agree. Well, we move on to your main event, which is a singles match for your NXT Championship between Dolph Ziggler, who's your champion, versus Bron Breakker. I think Bron Breakker gets his win again here, surely.
Yeah, he's going to get his title back, and his father and his uncle are going to come in and hoist him up on his shoulders. Yeah, this is going to be his. This is going to be his WrestleMania light moment.
God damn it, Jeff! Of course he will, right? I mean, do you like the fact that Ziggler even became NXT champ?
I don't mind. I mean, I didn't feel particularly strongly about one way or another. I mean, I guess it's better than him beating Ciampa or someone else that they haven't really decided which way they want to go with them. I mean, what was going to be Loomis or Cameron Grimes, who you knew be enhancement talent. So I mean, at least it was shocking. No one expected it. It gave Root a little bit more work. They did a little. It sort of felt like it deepened the rosters a little bit just by having that extra interplay with two new faces on whichever shows they were on. So I didn't think it was Dolph Ziggler is sort of the guy. Like when you have a new person in WWE, if it's a women's wrestler, they have a feud with Natty. That's the law. If it's a male wrestler, it's Dolph Ziggler, then Baron Corbin, then The Miz. So depending on the show you're on, those are the safe workers that they put you in feuds with. And then if you're facing a heel, then it would go to like an AJ, or someone like that. But that's it. Dolph Ziggler is the entryway. He's the gatekeeper. He's going to tell Vince whether this guy has it or not.
For sure, I agree 100%. Well, let's move on to Ring of Honor with Supercard of Honor. Now, I haven't had a chance to watch this yet because I've had to watch other things to do other shows, but I will actually watch it the minute we stop doing these shows. So, Jeff, I'm going to just call out the matches. You tell me what you thought, and we'll start with Colt Cabana versus Blake Christensen. Or Christian, sorry, should I say. I mean, what happened in this match, Jeff? Was it any good? Or should I skip it?
Yeah, this is one that you can skip. Colt Cabana won. He's the AEW guy. Blake Christian, I don't think is really under contract to anyone. He's just one of those free agents. He might have been with NXT for a minute. Anyway, Colt Cabana won. Nothing special about it, but Colt Cabana's a Ring of Honor guy, and he hasn't been doing anything in AEW. I opined earlier that on Cage, I thought that maybe he could be the face commentator on Rampage. That'd be a good role for him, but it's fine for him to be in Ring of Honor and be enhancement talent there. But he won. It was an inoffensive match, but if this wasn't Supercard of Honor, it wouldn't be a pay-per-view worthy match. But this card had 7 matches as of 2 days ago, and I think they ended up with like 12.
Jeez, yeah, that's true. That's actually very true. I was surprised because that's true. It did sort of extend. Well, we move on to match number 2 between AQA versus Miranda Alize.
Yeah. So
did I say that right?
I think it's Alize, but I'm not.
Alize. That makes more sense.
Ring of Honor restarted their women's division about a year ago. Roxy was the first champion. Their women's championship situation is very confused right now, as is everything from this sort of restart to hiatus to new restart period. I'm not going to go through that now. This was the AEW contracted talent, AQA, won. But the reason I went through this backdrop is because out of that entire tournament, the only wrestler that I thought put on consistently good matches and had a personality and could do both face and heel was, in fact, Miranda Alize. She's sort of like an Ivelisse, but apparently doesn't have the attitude and is younger. So I like her, and I hope that they keep her on. I mean, it's hard to say all the people that lost, maybe this is their last job under the Ring of Honor AEW banner, but I think she's got a future, and she could be their Roxy, their Cora Jade, their Sky Blue, their young woman that they can focus on and that can take some L's for a while, but in 2 or 3 years, be a focal point of their division. But the match itself, not special, but it wasn't bad. It was fine.
Okay, cool. Should I be skipping this one too, though, Jeff?
I don't know. Just I don't remember the order. Oh, watching it? Yeah, you don't need to watch it.
Okay, all right, cool. So we move on to match number 3, which we have Shinobi Shadow Squad versus the Gates of Agony.
Okay, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad is Shinobi Shadow Squad. First of all, that team was supposed to be over. It's Cheeseburger, who now I think goes by the world famous CB, and Eli Isom. Eli Isom is someone that Ring of Honor was trying to build around, which, by the way, was a mistake. The guy is not a star. He's got nothing to him, so I have no issue with the result. The Gates of Agony, or Gateway to Agony, whatever they're called, it's a strange name. This is Khan, who was half of the Soldiers of Savagery, or part of Shane Taylor promotion. So Moses has not been engaged to date, but Khan is the one who's built like an action figure with long dreadlocks. The other guy is Teo Leone, who is a Samoan. He sort of looks like a bigger version of Jacob Fatu, with more tattoos. And they look like a pretty badass team. And they killed the Shinobi Shadow Squad, which, broke a lot of Ring of Honor fans' hearts. But this, people like Cheeseburger and Eli Isom is where, part of where Ring of Honor has been going wrong for the last several years. And a team like Gates of Agony, regardless of their name, is awesome. And by the way, they're part of Tully Blanchard Enterprises, which is a throwback to like 40 years ago when J.J. Dillon was the manager of Tully Blanchard Enterprises before there was a Horseman. But so Tully Blanchard's their manager, so I expect good things for them. And there's more Tully Blanchard Enterprises later in the show. So it's a squash, so you can watch it.
Oh, just quietly, all these matches that I've been calling out first are from your pre-show matches.
Yeah.
Or shall I say the 0-hour matches.
Ooh.
And in our final 0-hour match, we have two former tag team partners in Joe Hendry versus Dalton Castle.
Yeah. So these are both two former Ring of Honor guys. Dalton Castle, sort of a cult favorite, because he plays that flamboyant character and he's got the boys and he's funny.
The boys. Were the boys back actually, Jeff?
No, the boys are in NXT. They're in security.
Oh, yes,
they keep getting beat up by Brock Lesnar. But he's got a different set of 4 boys. Joe Hendry is an Aussie. He used to do a music gimmick where you do I Believe in Joe Henry, and nobody saw him, during COVID, and he came back during Final Battle, and it's like he's 2 of himself. It's like he's Swole Henry now. So he's been on all the B12 as well. So it's not the
he has changed, actually, Jeff. He looks completely different to me.
Completely different. So, I like Joe Hendry. I like big guys, but that quick is not natural. He's not really moving the same. Anyway, a Ring of Honor guy won because they both Ring of Honor guys. Dalton Castle won. I assume that means he's under some form of contract. I assume that means Joe Hendry is. Listen, you knew things weren't good for Joe Hendry when he was one of the first people announced to be on Super Card of Honor, but never had a match announced.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Well, we move on to a match that I'm actually excited to see, which was Swerve Strickland versus Alex Zane. Surely this was your first pretty great matchup of the evening.
You'll like it more than me, but I mean, obviously the guy who's contracted to AEW won, Swerve won. That's sort of a theme for the night, that when in doubt, the AEW guy went over and the Ring of Honor guy lost. But yeah, this was a fast moving match. But Alex Zane, I remember him differently than he's performing now. He sort of looked like a mini Triple H, or used to. Now he looks sort of like a variation of Dalton Castle. I don't know what was going on with it. Something was off. But Swerve won. So Swerve always puts on a good show. But this is not an important match.
Well, speaking of important matches, we get Ninja Mac versus Brian Cage. Did I just spoil it already? Who's your new Tully Blanchard client? Are you happy with Brian Cage being in this spot? And more importantly, do you think he's happy to be in this spot?
Yes to both. I mean, he's been underutilized. And now, I think he's going to be, I think that's one of the reasons they picked up his option, was to feature around him. I think he's going to be the Ring of Honor World Champion very soon. I like the pairing with Tully Blanchard because Brian Cage really can't talk. I know he thinks he can, but he can't. He looks like $1 million, but he can't talk. Tully Blanchard can, and I like this group of hostels. I like a big man faction. I think this is something that wrestling needs. I love Shane Taylor Promotions. If they're not going to have Shane Taylor Promotions, I guess this is the closest thing I'm going to get. So I like this. This was a squash match. Ninja Mac, everyone was telling me he's going to be a big star. Apparently he's going off to Noah. Everyone's like, Ninja Mac. And I was laughing about Ninja Mac. And you're like, you're going to see how big a star he is. And listen, I know he was booked to be squashed. But still, I think it's funny. Everyone's telling me he's going to be such a big star. He loses in like 2 minutes. But no, this was great. I love squash matches. I like Brian Cage. As a wrestler, as a talent, I'd like to see him get the opportunity. I know his muscles go rippy a lot. And, I know he's sort of, falls into that Braun Strowman, Killer Cross, EC3. Isn't he in the MAGA verse? But I've heard he's a nice guy. He might be a little bit more conservative than woke Twitter. But anyway, whatever it is, looks good. And I think that if you see him on TV with a belt, you go, "That's a star." And if he's your champion, instantly you go, "Yeah, that makes sense. I can buy that."
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. But anyway, move on to Jay Lethal versus Lee Moriarty. Speaking of two AEW guys,
Yeah,
this surely would have been a pretty great matchup.
yeah, this was a good match. Jay Lethal turned heel, won with a low blow.
Thank you. About time.
Yeah. So all of carrying over the story from AEW, there was a lot of ties, and probably more than I'd like to see come 6 months from now, or come say 2 months after they're on TV. Like I don't want the ties to be cut. I like interplay, but this was too AEW, not as a pejorative. It just felt like an AEW show. Excuse me. Anyway, this was a good match, but Lethal won, and turned heel. And Sanjay Dutt came out to join Lethal in being heel on a beatdown, and Samoa Joe came out to even the odds. So Samoa Joe is now, well, he's not Ring of Honor because Tony Khan doesn't own Ring of Honor just yet. So he's now, Samoa Joe is all elite, though, debuted on Supercard of Honor.
Interesting. And I hope we do see him in AEW, as a matter of fact. I don't mind if he goes between both shows, but I want to see him in AEW. I'd love to see a Kenny versus Joe match, or Joe versus whoever, because there's a lot of good matchups. I know we've seen him versus Punk in the past and Danielson, but nevertheless, I'd love to see it again in AEW.
Okay, let me say something. Most people say that they've seen that. They haven't.
Yeah, you're probably right. That was a long time ago. Just like CM Punk's theme, like everybody knew his Ring of Honor theme.
Just like they pretend that they watch New Japan and love Jay White. Just like they pretend that they love Minoru Suzuki's song, but they didn't know what it was. I mean, it's like
They don't know Cousin Nina Ray.
right.
Well, anyway, we move on to Willow Nightingale versus Mercedes Martinez for your interim Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. I assume this was not bad.
This was pretty bad, but I don't know. I mean, Mercedes Martinez is a pretty good workmanlike wrestler. Willow Nightingale, people seem to like her. I don't know why. I've never seen her in a good match. She seems like she sort of wants to be Dusty Rhodes. I don't know. I didn't feel it, but it doesn't matter. The Mercedes Martinez won. She is the interim Ring of Honor World's Champion, even though Deonna Purrazzo actually is the Ring of Honor World's Women's Champion right now. So I don't know why they need an interim champion.
Yeah, what's happening with that? Why?
This is what I heard. No one's confirmed it, and obviously it didn't work out. But that into last week, Tony Khan was trying to either get Deonna Purrazzo to perform on the show, and Impact said no, or he was trying to buy out her contract so that he could have her. And Impact said no. Maybe they thought he would overpay by 3,000%, like he overpaid for Ring of Honor, and maybe he just held the line at the today's value of her contract. Whatever it is, it didn't work out. They said no. Impact did have their multiverse show during the day, and then they were having autograph signings, but the last one I saw, Deonna Purrazzo wasn't on the list. So, I mean, I think she probably could have worked both shows if they really wanted to work it out, but I don't know. Impact has been burned by AEW before, sometimes on purpose, sometimes it was just an unintended consequence. But even now, Tony Khan buys Ring of Honor. Well, Impact's one of their biggest stories is Honor No More is a faux Ring of Honor invasion into Impact. Well, now that storyline is completely undercut. I mean, you have to be completely kayfabe blinders to even believe that there's a loose association. So, Impact can't be pleased with any of this. And now they just got a new competitor who's probably going to get a TV deal on a regular channel and probably, by week one, do 3 times what Impact's numbers are.
Oh God. And yeah, I guess, and I was going to ask you, I guess AEW and Impact Wrestling's relationship is pretty much over. Like,
that's been
they're
over.
pretty much on bad. They're on bad terms pretty much right now.
Yeah, that's been over since Christian gave back the title, and the last time you saw the Good Brothers was when it ended.
That's true. That's a good point, because they're nowhere to be found now, are they?
Right.
And do you think the Good Brothers want to come to AEW actually in the future?
I don't care what the Good Brothers want to do.
Fair enough.
I mean, if they do, I hope they get hit by a good humor truck on the way.
Well, personally, I'm a fan of theirs, but whatever. We move on to, speaking of tag teams, we move on to the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships between the Briscoes, your champions, them boys, versus FTR. Now, I'm assuming this one was a wild one.
Yeah, this was a really good match. As the theme goes on, the AEW contracted talent won. The FTR, your new Ring of Honor champions, and now the Ring of Honor champions and the AAA tag team champions. The Briscoes won the GCW tag team champions yesterday. I think the Briscoe brothers are probably done with Ring of Honor, not by choice. I think because of that Warner Discovery thing that seems to be singularly at the Briscoes. I mean, I'm not saying it was the right decision or wrong decision. It just seems to be a strangely specific and strangely strong position taken on a relatively obscure wrestler. I mean, I know in the IWC, the Briscoes are not obscure, but in the real world, nobody knows who the Briscoes are. I mean, they probably don't know who, I mean, they probably don't remember Jack and Jerry Briscoe, let alone, I mean, Wes Briscoe might be, well, I don't know. Anyway.
Is he still wrestling with Briscoe?
Oh, God, probably. What else do these guys do? The Young Bucks came out at the end to, attack the FTR. The Briscoes sort of came back and helped and chased them away, but this is to further the FTR Young Bucks feud. This was probably unnecessary, but somehow the Young Bucks, I'm sure, got paid $1,700 each for 10 minutes of work.
Well, this card sounds like AEW Supercard of Honor instead of Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, but it is what it is. Yeah. Well, we'll move on to Rhett Titus versus Minoru Suzuki, Mr. Kane's cousin Nina Ray himself.
Right.
What everybody knows, apparently. And surely the fans were singing his song.
Yeah. Mitsubishi Sashimi came in. And this was not announced. This was a surprise.
Oh, yes, and it was for your Ring of Honor TV Championship, which I forgot to mention.
Right. And it's Rhett Titus, who basically has been with Ring of Honor, his entire career and basically all of Ring of Honor's duration. He's okay. I mean,
I hate Rhett Titus, dude. I don't like him whatsoever. Yeah.
I mean, he's
never will.
No, he's got nothing. He's another guy that Ring of Honor was focusing on that nobody cared about ever, never will. No charisma. Had a good body, but he was like slim, so it was like more like an underwear model than like a Lex Luger type. And he had I'm sure he's clean, but he looks like a meth head. His face. I mean, he looks like a Baltimore Billy Boy, which is a city hillbilly basically. I used to call him Meth Titus, which is very mean, I know. But he lost. And by the way, the TV title is one of the titles that Ring of Honor said it was discontinuing. So I don't know if Tony Khan changed his mind forever or just for this card, just to make the Minoru Suzuki thing feel important. I mean, Suzuki, I'm sure he's in only for a week, for a few weeks doing a bunch of shows. He'll probably drop that belt to someone else, probably someone who's contracted to AEW before the week is over. We could probably put guesses as to who it would be, probably like Daniel Garcia or Lee Moriarty or something, someone like that. Anyway, maybe BJ Little. Anyway, Suzuki won. This was a Suzuki match. Rhett Titus, I don't care. I mean, I'm sorry. I hear he's a nice guy, but nah, he's he's not a star. He's not a draw. Nobody buys a ticket or puts the TV on to watch Rhett Titus.
I agree 100%. Well, we move on to Josh Woods versus Wheeler Yuta for your Ring of Honor Pure Championship. I assume this one was a pretty decent matchup. And I know you're not the biggest fan of Yuta, but he gets the win and wins your Ring of Honor Pure Championship.
Well, he's the AEW contracted talent, so see the pattern here. Also, it fits in with the storyline on AEW, where he's basically being courted by or trying to court William Regal, Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley. Bryan Danielson was a pure champion. He might have been the first pure champion.
I think he was actually, Jeff, as a matter of fact.
So, obviously it ties in. So it makes sense. Now, I like Josh Woods a lot. I think Josh Woods could be a star. I think Josh Woods has a personality. I know Chad Gable's doing well now, but Josh Woods is what they wanted Chad Gable to be, and sort of what Chad Gable is now. Except Josh Woods is a little bit bigger. But I will say that lately he's been on that AEW exercise kick where he's sort of gotten smaller and not in shape. But he's got it. He's a technician. But yeah, he lost. The Ring of Honor guy lost. I don't know if that means spells the end of his time in Ring of Honor or AEW. I hope not, for his sake, for my sake. But yeah, Wheeler Yuta is the pure champion. Pure is boring. For those who don't know what pure is, it's technical wrestling. You can only have 3 rope breaks. There's no closed fists. You can only get 1 warning. There's some other rules that it's like a technical wrestler's dream. Problem with Ring of Honor is they focused on it, so you could have an hour show where it's like 2 pure matches, which is hell. You have 1 12-minute pure match and a regular wrestling show. It's great. It's variety. It's interesting. It's technical. It's something different. But they did too much of it. And again, there's 70,000 people who like that, but there's 700,000 people who fall asleep.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Even I'm a fan of the pure, right? I mean, it's not for everybody. Well, we'll move on to the main event for your undisputed Ring of Honor World Championship between Jonathan Gresham and Bandito. And man, Gresham looks huge nowadays, dude. I mean, for a little guy, he's massive.
Yeah, he is a fire hydrant. Now, this is strange because there's nothing undisputed about this belt. I was at Final Battle, people. So what happened is Bandito was the reigning Ring of Honor World Champion. He flunked a COVID test, so he couldn't be at Final Battle. They stripped him of the title. Jay Lethal was lent by AEW to challenge Jonathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World Championship. There's nothing disputed about it. So then they went into hiatus. So they came up with this little story where Bandito, since he still actually had the new Ring of Honor title belt and Gresham had the old Ring of Honor title belt, that was sort of the story that it was disputed. Okay, it's a wrestling story, fine. So this was the first match that was booked. I'm not sure that either of these guys is signed to AEW. I don't think Bandito is. I think he's sort of doing the circuit. I think he's MLW, AAA, CMLL, a few other things. Gresham recently has been on the Impact active roster.
That's right.
I think that whoever this is, I mean, fine. Gresham was the last Ring of Honor champion, so that's a little privity. But I think whoever won this, and now we know it's Gresham, which this was a good match, by the way. Neither one of these guys is really my kind of wrestler. They're both kind of small. But it's an interesting mix of lucha and a pure technical match. So it's an interesting dynamic, just not for me because I've been seeing it for the past year on Ring of Honor constantly, whether it's Flamita or Ray Horus or Dragon Lee or Bandito. I mean, it's same thing all the time. But whoever it is, I have a feeling it's going to be an interim champion for the reasons we said. Also, I think that Tony Khan's vision is not of Jonathan Gresham being the world champion for very long. I think there's going to be Brian Cage with Tully Blanchard or someone else, but I don't think he's building this faction not to do their own sort of copycat on the Roman Empire where
no.
Well, I mean, it's not going. But you're going to have a champion, and they're going to be tag team champions together with the manager. Doing that thing. And listen, the Kenny did it with the Good Brothers and Don Callis too, and that worked. For a while,
but that felt a little bit different though. Still, you know what I mean? Even though,
titles too. Yeah,
that's true.
And this will feel different too because first of all, they're not family, and Paul Heyman and Tully Blanchard are very different characters. I just mean the dynamic and the aesthetic. I don't mean the actual act.
Well, we did get Joe coming out in this match at the end of the match. We also had Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt. Jeez, I don't know why.
Who was the first one you said?
I said, what did I say first? Oh, and also Chavo was in this match.
Chavo. Yeah, well, Chavo.
Chavito.
Okay, so Chavo was Bandito's manager, which I mean, I thought spoiled it because Chavo's one of the guys that said that Tony Khan fired me without telling me I was fired.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I was thinking as I was reading that. So, yeah.
So I thought that was a dead giveaway. That was a spoiler. Okay, well, you gave Chavo back his job. Now you're going to hire Bandito, and that seems more like a Tony Khan kind of move than Jonathan Gresham. Plus, I saw Gresham on the Impact roster, so hey, good swerve on me. I mean, fooled me. But yeah, I don't know what that means for Chavo going forward.
Jesus Christ, man. Well, I think that just covers it. I am going to watch it. I'll give my honest sort of opinion about it on the next show that we actually do. But all in all, it seems like a great card. It
Well, no
does
one was
feel very
expecting shit. I mean, or
right.
most people, you didn't know what to expect. I mean, the Ring of Honor faithful love everything, and they're excited about everything. God bless them. Every company has a fan base like that. But most people are like, this card had 5 matches on it until the middle of the week. Then they announced the women's match with, and then it just looked like it was a slow build. They hadn't sold any tickets. Then they did. Listen, Tony pulled this one out. He pulled the rabbit out. He put up a good card. Yes, it was mostly AEW burying Ring of Honor talent, but what do you expect? What do you expect? And I think he struck a good enough balance with something old, something new, some surprises, some free agents, some old WWE, Samoa Joe coming in. So I think he struck a pretty good balance. And all things considered, from a show that could have been an abject disaster, it was not a disaster. People are talking about it. There's more buzz about this show than GCW Multiverse, GCW Collective for the Culture, and CYN in the aggregate.
That's a good one. That's true. I agree. Well, hopefully, all in all, I hope there was a good balance. It does feel very AEW-ish. I'm surprised that the hardcore Ring of Honor, like faithful out there, would be excited. I would have thought maybe they would shit on this because of the AEW factor. But
There is some of that. I'm not saying that I was talking about before. There is some after, but it's
okay,
not. It's not. I think they know the alternative was no Ring of Honor. I think right now they're still happy about the letters, and Gresham's the champion, and that's good enough for them for now.
okay, interesting. We'll see where this all leads. Nevertheless, I'm excited. I wouldn't mind, a bit of interplay between Ring of Honor and AEW if they manage to actually book it right. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. In saying that, Jeff, I think that's the end for the blow off.
Yeah.
Please tell them where they can find you.
My wrestling podcast is Hammerlock Hangover with Big Daddy Cool Stephen Pena. We did our WrestleMania predictions there. Also, Kevin Castle joined us. You can find me for the last 3 weeks. I've been on Uncaged with Jimmy T, often Chris Hams as well. And sometimes I'm on Carnage and Skirmish. My non-wrestling podcasts are Garden of Doom and Garden Views. Garden of Doom is variety, mythology, theology, history. This week we have the host of the History of Africa podcast talking about who are the Berbers. And last week I had the Horror King, Vincent from Impact and Ring of Honor Wrestling on, where we talked about horror and then stuff like that, a little wrestling as well. Garden Views is more sort of like mainstream interviews. This week had a lawyer who was one of the 2 lawyers who trailblazed the path on suing state sponsors of terrorism. So it's a really fantastic story. So check that out. And I'm also doing sort of like a mini series that's going to get us to what's extrapolate to the law of space, but we're doing like earthbound laws for now, like the law of the sea, admiralty, and immigration and things like that. But we'll get there. It's a journey.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you can find me right here at theblowoff.com for the blow off week in, week out. You can also find me on Hameen Media Group and channelattitude.com, and also at the pwcnetwork.podbean.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter at DJ MassFX and also at the PWC Network. I guess that's it, Jeff. So in saying that, I'm Jimmy T. He's Evil Dose, and you've been listening to the blow off, the WrestleMania blow off, that is, right here on channelattitude.com, presented by Hameen Media Group. Peace.
Stay evil, my friends.